Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. Today, we are going to be talking about how to use visuals in the home and in the community. We're going to talk about what are visual supports, why are they helpful, and how we can make them and make them useful for ourselves, for our children in the home and in the community. A lot of the things that you can make will be able to transfer from home to the community. So we're going to talk about just all the different ways that we can do that. I'm going to give just another minute or so for everybody to be able to log in. I hope that you guys can see me today. I know last time some people weren't able to log in with a video. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to ask while we are talking through this. And again, at the end, I will also give you guys time to ask any questions that you may have so that I can help. Good afternoon, Annette. Thank you for joining. I am going to share my screen here so that we can see the slideshow that I have created. So again, we are going to be talking about using visuals in the home and community. My name is Kristen Blow. Some of you have joined me before, some have not. For those who have not joined, I am a board certified behavior analyst, and I have been working in this field since about 2013. I typically work with kids anywhere from ages 2 to 12. And so I use visuals all the time. I use them at home with my child, and I use them when I'm working all the time. So we're going to start off by talking about what are visual supports. And visual supports are when you use pictures or other visuals to communicate with a child who has difficulty understanding or using language. Visual supports can be photographs, drawings, objects, written words, lists, any of those kind of things that you can use to kind of support the language that you're using. So visual supports are very important, and we know that most children who have autism spectrum disorder or ASD present challenges with interacting socially, using language. They have limited interests or repetitive behaviors that sometimes can impede on them being able to communicate. And so visual supports can help in all three of those areas. The research has shown that visual supports work really well as a way to communicate. So for individuals who may have some trouble either having, being able to communicate with other people, if they're nonverbal, if they just don't have that extensive of vocabulary. Sometimes you have children who can speak with their parents or teachers or other individuals they're familiar with, but when they go into the community and they are not familiar with the people that are around them, you may see them start to exhibit some behaviors, or they may decide that they're not going to speak at all because they don't feel comfortable. So visual supports can help with that. It can help for parents and caregivers to better communicate with their child and to help their child better communicate with them as well. And they can also promote appropriate positive ways to communicate, which will reduce frustration, anxiety, and confusion. And these, again, are some reasons why you might see some behaviors that are not so appropriate be exhibited due to these frustrations, due to anxiety and confusion. A lot of time when we see these negative behaviors, it is because the child does not know how to communicate appropriately their want or needs. So they will go to these behaviors instead as kind of their way to get across what it is that they're needing. So visual supports can also help to prime or prepare the individual for what might be coming up next in their schedule. Or when you're going to make schedule changes to the schedule, this can help show them what that change is. We know a lot of times there can be rigidity around scheduling and routines. So if you know that your child struggles with change, struggles with unexpected things that come up in the day, visuals can really help support them through these. I love visuals because you can make them as big as you want or as small as you want, which means that you can take them with you. And that's always great when you're going out into the community. And they can be altered to fit the specific needs of the individual or the activity that you're engaging in. So no matter what the age of your child is, the learner of the individual, you can always alter your visuals to be able to help them in the way that they need it specifically. So a couple different types of visuals are first then or first then next boards. There are visual schedules, weight cards, conversation cards, visual reminders, choice boards, and social stories. These are all different types of visuals that are typically used within the home, community, school. You might see these visuals anywhere. And that's the great thing about visuals is that you can use them in any setting. So we're going to go over kind of what each of these visuals are and how they may help you or when they might be best to be used. So the first one is the first then or first then next board. These are visual displays of something that your child prefers that will happen after completing a task that is less preferred. So here in the example, we have first eat dinner, then have cookie. We all know how much kids love their desserts or love their sweets. So this is always a great thing to use if there's maybe one or two tasks that need to be completed before they get their preferred activity. A first then schedule might be great. A first then next schedule can also be used. This is if maybe there are two activities that they need to complete before they get their preferred activity. So the good thing about these are that it gives them a visual display of what it is that they may have to do that might be non-preferred and when they can access the preferred item or activity that they would like to have or interact with. The next one is visual schedules. We talked a little bit about this before. A visual schedule is a visual representation of what's going to happen throughout the day or within a task or activity. So here are two different examples. We have one that shows a full day schedule. There are some kids, some learners who will be able to use this and they'll be able to see what they're going to do for the whole day. If your child is not able to look at all of this information at one time, then what we have next to that is a morning routine where we have broken down the schedule. So rather than just having the times of the day, we've broken down the times of the day and what they're going to do for just the morning. So this shows that they're going to wake up. After they wake up, they can feed the dog. After that, they will make their bed. They will brush their teeth, brush their hair, get dressed. If they have to take medicine, they can do that, and then they would get on the bus for school. I know right now that is not what's happening because most of our children are not able to go to school, but this is just an example of what can be used. Our next one are weight cards. So weight cards are a method for visually teaching the concept of waiting, and this can be waiting to engage in an activity, waiting your turn. A lot of times I have taught children to wait their turn to talk using a wait visual. I have taught them to take turns with their peers or with another adult when we're using a wait visual, and sometimes it's just teaching them to wait to interact with a toy. So these visuals can be held up just to show them that we're waiting. Maybe they're waiting in line. If they're waiting to take their turn, then I might say, hold up the wait visual and tell them it's my turn, we're waiting. And then once they're done waiting, I'd put the visual down and tell them now it's your turn. Even if it's another child is playing with the toy, while that child is interacting with the toy, you can show them, oh, look, we're waiting. So this kind of gives them a visual way to see that they can't interact with it right now, but as soon as they're done waiting, they can have that activity or that item. I've had a child who loved to go outside, but they often forgot to ask an adult to come with them. So we would put a wait symbol on the door, and they knew when that wait symbol was up, it was a visual reminder to wait at the door and ask to go outside before just opening the door and leaving the area, because that is a huge safety concern. So the wait symbol or cards can help with a lot of that. And again, when we're teaching these different visuals, we're going to want to use them in all different areas. So typically when we start to teach them, we might want to start teaching them in the home before we take them outside of the home. So we're going to want to make sure that they are consistently responding to the visual at home with familiar people in their natural environment before we take them out into the community and try to use these different visuals. There are also conversation cards. So this is a visual way to teach conversation starters, topics, reciprocation in conversation, how to answer questions. We know that a lot of times conversation can be a difficult thing for children with autism or other developmental disabilities. So we can use this to show them different ways to engage with others. This right here is a hello board that I made for a client who would, every time their mom ran in the house, the first thing they would say is, "Can I have McDonald's?" So rather than her seeing mom and her initial reaction being, "Can I have McDonald's?" what we did was we would present this visual chart and we would go over what are the ways that we can say hi to mom when she comes in. We can say, "Hey," or "How's it going? How was your day?" So before mom would come home, we would present this chart to her and we would let her choose which way she was going to greet mom. We would practice this. And then when mom was coming in the door, we would hold up the chart as a visual reminder for her to say what we had practiced. So our next one is visual reminders. So a visual reminder is a way to show what the expectations are and to be able to remind the individual without repeating yourself multiple times, especially if you're out in the community. Maybe you're at dinner or maybe you're at church where you don't want to talk a lot. So these are ways that you can show them and remind them what they should be doing without having to say it out loud. We also know that a lot of times the auditory processing can be a bit slower for individuals on the spectrum. So by giving them these visuals, it cuts out that time that they have to sit and try to process what it is that you're looking for. Our next one is a choice board. A choice board is a visual way to have the individual be able to make a choice on the item that they want or the activity that they would like to engage in. A lot of times, in order to get things done, we're going to need to have a motivator. And so really what this choice board does is it lets them choose what is going to motivate them to complete or engage in that non-preferred activity that has to be done. So if they have chores to do and they have to clean their room, what am I going to get after I clean my room? And sometimes they may have so many different choices and they want to interact with so many different things that by putting it on a board, this allows them to pick that one thing. It gives them a visual representation of what is available and it allows them to choose what they want. Here, the example is a snack choice board. I know a lot of kids who are grazers or who might like to put a little bit of everything on a plate, but that's not always convenient, especially when we're at home right now. I know that my child is wanting a snack, it feels like every 15 minutes. So when you give them this choice board, it lets them know that we're going to pick one snack and they can pick what it is that they're looking for and what they want to eat. The next one that I have here are social stories. So social stories are a narrative that illustrates certain situations and problems and how people might deal with them. The example we have here is about sharing, and it says, "Other children may like the same toys as me. I can share by giving them some of my toys or taking turns." So social stories were created by a woman named Carol Gray. She has a lot of great resources online if you ever want to look her up. And what they can do is they can help to explain the different expectations of things and how you can deal with these different situations. So for instance, if you're going out to a restaurant, you can use the social story and show, "We're going to the restaurant. When I get to the restaurant, I'm going to stand with mom and dad until we get to our table. Once I get to the table, I'm going to sit down and I can color, or if they have their iPad, you tell them what they can engage in while we wait for our food. While we're at the restaurant, I can," and this is where you're going to tell them the different things. "I can keep a quiet voice. I can stay in my seat. I can use my silverware. I can ask mom and dad for help if I need it." These are where these stories give pictures and visuals of how they are expected to interact or maybe behave while they're in certain situations. We have used social stories in many situations. I had a child who would often elope and did not understand the dangers of eloping. So we made a simple social story that let him know, when I want to go outside, I can ask. When I'm outside, I can stay with mom. I can stay with my therapist. If I want to get a different toy or engage in another activity, I can ask the adult that I'm with. And this kind of just let them know that where we're gonna be. I can stay on the sidewalk so that we're not running into the street. If I want to cross the street, I will hold mom's hand and look for cars. The one thing that we always want to make sure we're doing when using social stories are using positive language and telling them what it is that we can do rather than talking about what it is that we should not be doing. You always want to make sure you're using that positive language and giving them examples of what to do rather than what not to do, because again, the auditory processing can be slower. So if you're giving them all this information, there's no guarantee that they're hearing what it is that you want them to do rather than what it is that you don't want them to do. So giving them that visual, using that positive language, it makes sure that you're giving them all the things that you want them to do in the ways that you would like for them to interact. So what I have now is I have some visuals that I have created. This is a first, then, next board. So what I would do is using my first, then, next board, I would let them know first, we're gonna wash our hands. Then we're gonna sit at the table. Next, we're gonna sit at the table. Then I can have my cookie. So every time we use this board, we wanna let them know what it is that we have to do first, what's next, and then the then is always going to be a reinforcing activity. If you're using just the first then, that's fine. But again, we always want to make sure that the then part is something that we know is motivating and know that they want to engage in, because if not, then there's no reason for them really to interact in the first things, because they don't see where they're going to be rewarded in the end. I also have a visual schedule. So here we have a morning routine basically that talks about going to the bathroom, making the bed, breakfast, brushing teeth, getting dressed. So what happens sometimes is you may have a learner that needs it to be broken down even further. So I also have here a visual that talks about how to get dressed, what we do when we're getting dressed. So when I get dressed, first I'm gonna put on my underwear, then I'm gonna put on my shorts, then a t-shirt, then socks and shoes. And so this is really helpful because it'll break down the different parts of your actual visual schedule. If you know that you have a learner who's going to need a lot more of these, rather than using a visual schedule, you might want to just have these different things laid out. If it is that you still want to use a visual schedule so that we can start to shape these out, then with each item, you would say, we're going potty, and then you would have this schedule available in the bathroom for them to follow as they go along. The cool thing about this one also is you want to make sure that they're able to kind of mark off what they've completed so they can see that they're finishing up their schedule, that they're actually getting to the bottom of something and getting it all completed. I also have some visuals of if you're going on an outing. I created this for a child who was going to the store. Typically when they would go shopping, he always wanted to be on the phone or on a tablet, and he would engage in screaming behaviors. If he wasn't allowed to, he would constantly reach into the adult's pocket trying to take their cell phone. And if he did successfully get it, he would then run through the store with it so that they could not take it back. So this is a visual that shows, and this visual was, this learner was able to read. So this visual does not have any pictures. It's just the list. And it says, we are going to, and you could fill in whatever store you're going to. And it told him that we're first going to get a shopping cart. Then we're going to stay with Nana and Papa's, who he would go with, but it could be mom and dad, whoever they're going to be out with. Then we're going to help push the cart or walk next to Nana and Papa. So this was so that he knew that he wasn't to go running around. He was either to stay and hold the cart or he was to hold hands. Then you're going to help put the items in the cart, wait in line at the register, and this might take a few minutes. So this is where you might also want to have your wait visual with you. So you might have shown them that we're going to wait in line, but then you might need to show them while in line that we're waiting. And then we're going to walk to the car. And again, at the end, we have the reinforcer. You're going to get a prize. So this would be basically the same exact thing, but with pictures for somebody who needed actual visuals of what's going to happen. So again, you can put the place that you're going and you can go through each step and show them. And then at the end, you get a reward. We always want to make sure that we have that reward. The other thing that I haven't talked about is token board. So token boards are a type of reinforcement system, and it basically teaches a child that once I earn all my tokens, I get a reward. So here's a token board that I've created, and what you would do is you would have the child choose what it is that they would like to have, and then you're going to put it here. So can I have puzzles? And then you're going to have them earn a token for each activity that they complete. This is also something that has to be trained. Any visual is going to have to be taught and trained in order for it to generalize to a different setting, to different people. So you want to make sure that anytime you're introducing a visual, you want to practice it in the home. You want to practice it in a natural and a comfortable environment with them before taking them out in the community and letting them try to use it, because at that point, if they don't know what's expected, it's going to be really hard for them to follow the visual. So token boards are a great thing to keep around, especially in the house. During this time when a lot of us are doing homeschooling, even if you, on a regular day when they are able to go to school, when you're doing homework, if they have chores to complete, a token board is a great way to do this. For some kids, you might have to give them a token after they complete each and every activity. So you might have to break your schedule down a little bit more. For learners who might be more advanced or who are able to tolerate doing more non-preferred activities at a time, then you could go through all the activities you need them to do and then give them their reinforcer. Token boards can have as many tokens as you want on them. I use them with anywhere from 4 to 12 tokens. So that's just really gonna, again, depend on the learner. Sometimes I'll put more tokens on there if I know that they're gonna need a token after every activity, but I also know that they can sit for a longer amount of time or be engaged for a longer amount of time. Then I might do a token board that has more spots for tokens on it. And that's going to allow me to get more stuff done, but it's also showing them that they're earning their reinforcer. So here I have a visual that's portable that you can take with you. And what I've put on here is a wait card, a go card that lets them know that it's available for them to go. So that's going to let them know, oh, right now we're waiting. Oh, you can go, now it's your turn, or you can go, or they can engage in whatever activity it is that they've been waiting on. And again, as reminders, so maybe you're out somewhere and they're getting a little loud, so you might want to remind them, hey, we have a quiet voice right now. Sit down, and then I've put a small token board on here, so that way if you're out somewhere, you can have them do different activities and still have them earn. So maybe it is that you are going to the grocery store and you're running in and you just have to get a couple of items. So you can let them know, oh, good, you stayed with me while we got the shopping cart. There's a token. Okay, now I have to go get some bread and butter. So we're gonna go grab, we get the bread, we get the butter. Great job. Next, we're gonna wait in line. Oh, good, you waited in line. Now we're gonna go back to the car. Good job walking with me to the car. You've got your last token, and now they get their reinforcer. So we always want to make sure that when we're using visuals, we're looking at the level of the learner, what it is that we want them to engage in, and if they have seen these visuals before and if they have been taught. I also, when I am out, like to keep just like a blank card like this, and I will keep a marker with me, because in case maybe you're on the fly, something happens that you weren't expecting, You can always write or draw whatever it is that you need on here. So it's like having a built-in visual right there for you at all times. Another thing is with social stories. I love social stories. So I had a client who did not like to change clothes. They wanted to wear their favorite outfit every day. So we made them a visual or a social story that showed them that they can change their clothes, we can wash our clothes, and mom can give them to us and we can wear them again on another day. I had a client who, when they were walking their dog, sometimes that would cause some concern for the mom. She would run away with the dog, or she would let go of the leash. So the dog was getting loose, and that was causing some concern. So we made a specialized token board specifically for walking the dog. So I'm going to share my screen again so that I can show you the visual for walking the dog. And so here we have, and you can make any of these anywhere. I use PowerPoint most often because it is easiest for me. Some people like to use Boardmaker. Some people like to use Microsoft Word. There are plenty of different things on Teachers Pay Teachers that have different visuals that you can use, lots of social stories. But here we kind of did almost like a social story with a token board. So this was where she could choose, if I earn all my tokens, I can have, and here is what we would put what she could have. And on the back of this token board, so this was a two-sided token board, we had basically our mini social story. So when we walk the dog, I walk with or next to mom during the walk. I look both ways before crossing the street. I'll make sure that I'm not whining and I'm using a normal voice when I talk to mom, because she would typically want to start whining to mom that she wanted whatever her reinforcer was, and that's when she would let go of the leash. So I know that mom will hold the leash and I do not have to ask to hold it. So we started off with, when we started this token board, we had the mom hold the leash the entire time because we knew that she let go of the leash every single time. And if mom was holding it, she would repetitively ask to hold the leash. So this was, again, something that showed her, I don't have to ask a bunch of times. Mom's going to hold it and I know that it's okay. And then when I go on the walk, I can bring one small bag with toys in it, but I cannot bring all of my toys. She typically liked to bring almost every toy that she owned. She would try to find a way to carry it. So this was a way that we could allow her to have those toys that she wanted as a comfort item for her when she walked, but also minimize what it was that she was carrying. And so every time that we did this, we would go on a walk. We would know that we were walking for about 15 minutes. So we would give her a token about every 3 to 4 minutes, maybe, sometimes 5, just depending on how it was going. And if she had all of her tokens by the time she got inside, she was able to gain her reinforcer. So these are all different ways that we can use visuals, especially in the home. I like to use visuals as a reminder of any chores that need to be done, as a reminder of when we're cleaning up after ourselves, what we need to do to prepare for bed, what needs to be done before we can access certain activities. My child loves his PlayStation, but he does not always remember to do all of his chores before getting on it. So we have made a visual that says, can I have my PlayStation yet? And under that, it has questions. Have I cleaned my room? Have I made my bed? Did I read for 30 minutes? Is all of my work complete? These are the things that he needs to get done before he can access his PlayStation, and he knows that he can go through that checklist. And if he has been able to mark all those things off, he can now access his PlayStation. So these are things that anybody can use. You can use them at home, you can use them at school, you can use them in the community. Visuals can be used anywhere, and that's why they're a great tool. I don't know how much everybody knows about social stories. So again, Carol Gray created social stories, and they really are a great tool to use. When I create my social stories, I like to think about what it is that I want the child to do and how this is going to help them. I also look at taking maybe some of their favorite activities or their favorite characters and incorporating them into the social story. So I would like to show you a social story that I created here for going to the dentist. I like to use social stories if we're going to work on desensitizing different things, because a lot of times we might have children who are afraid of the dentist, afraid to go to the doctor. So we want to give them a visual representation of how this is going to go, what's going to be done, and how we can keep them safe during this time, that there's no need for them to be afraid. And so here I have a social story about going to the dentist. And this child was really into Guardians of the Galaxy. So we did Rocket Raccoon Goes to the Dentist. And we made him Rocket Raccoon. And what this social story does is it just talks about how Rocket Raccoon has to go to the dentist to keep his teeth safe, and how brave he is, and how going to the dentist keeps his smile clean and bright. He has a friend that gets to go into the cleaning room with him. These are the different masks that he might have to wear, which is almost like a superhero mask. So we took something that was kind of scary for him and made it into something that was really cool. Talking about what it's going to look like when they're in there. You're going to get in the chair. They're going to lean the chair back, and they're going to look into your mouth, the kind of tools that they're going to use. So we talked about the mirror that they have. He's going to get a cleaning, and it just lets them talk through each step of what's going to happen while they're there to kind of ease some of that anxiety. So with this child, we talked about using wait tokens for how long he needed to keep his mouth open for when the dentist was looking inside, because even though we might be able to tell them, oh, you're going to open your mouth, that doesn't mean that he knows he's going to have to hold his mouth open. So we want it to be very clear in here that we're going to open our mouth and we're going to get wait tokens while we hold our mouth open. We talk about how to sip the water, how to spit it into the sink. When they do the fluoride, we talked about how they can paint your teeth, what it's going to look like, how it won't hurt. It might tickle a little, but we want to manage their expectations. We want to let them know exactly what it is that they're looking at, exactly what's going to happen, and kind of describe it for them. So here we even showed some of the dentist tools. And then these were the different prizes that they could get at the end. And it talks about how going to the dentist can be scary, but how brave he is and how it's going to help his smile. So again, we broke down every aspect of what it is that we were going to be doing, how we expected him to engage in it. And we even brought up pictures of the different tools and things that will be used. We have done this for haircuts. We have done this for the doctor. We have done this for even going to places where there might be people in costumes. And so visuals can help with desensitizing some of these situations. If you have a child who's afraid of going to the dentist, a social story is a great thing to use, as well as you can even order little dentist tools from Amazon. They have like little packets that you can practice with to get them used to seeing the different tools. You can let them touch the tools. You can practice how to use them in their mouth. These are still visual ways of helping them through this situation. So when we look at using visuals, we have to look at how not only does it help them communicate, but it can help them interact in different situations. It can teach them how to behave in certain situations. It can teach them expectations. These are all things that are very important when we are looking at going into the community with our learners. I know that going to loud places can be a very scary thing for a lot of children as well. Something that you might want to keep along with you, as well as a visual schedule or visuals to let them know what is expected, is you might want to get them a visual of a break card or an I'm all done. because again, we want to give them ways to communicate as well. So when we give them these visuals, this can help them to be able to get out of a situation that may be very uncomfortable for them. So for some kids, we might have the all done card that they can pull and that they can use. And again, when you're teaching all done, when you first start teaching it, if they request all done, you're going to immediately end the activity that is happening, because we want them to know that that is what all done means. Once it's very clear and they're consistently able to pull all done and use it at an appropriate time, that's when you can start telling them, okay, we can be all done in X amount of time, because it is not always going to be that you can be all done right then when they ask. If you are out in a store and it's too loud and they want to be all done, we know that you can't just walk out right then. If you're waiting in line, you're going to have to wait a little bit. So when they say all done, but it can't be all done at that very moment, that's when you can tell them, oh, okay, thanks for letting me know. We're going to wait and then we can be all done. You might have them pull a help card. Sometimes they're in uncomfortable situations and they need help, but they don't know how to ask for it. So help cards are great. If they need to take a break, if they're in an overwhelming situation, if they're becoming frustrated, you can teach them to ask for a break so that it will cut off any more frustration that they're getting, and it gives them time to kind of sit and breathe and come back and be able to then maybe either engage in the activity or be able to tell you what it is that made them upset. So as much as visuals are for us to communicate to them, visuals are also for them to communicate to us. So this is where we talked about last time. I know everybody wasn't there. We spoke about PECS as a communication system, and that's the picture exchange communication system, where the child has, or the learner will have a sheet of PECS cards, different cards that tell you different things that they might want: foods, drinks, toys, anything. But they might also tell you that they're all done or that they're feeling sad. These are where they can use these pictures to be able to communicate with you and let you know how they're feeling about a situation or what it is that they're looking to do. So that is also why choice boards are great. If you have choice boards around, that's a great way for them to be able to show you what it is that they're wanting or that they're looking for. When I do choice boards, I like to make big ones for the home that you can maybe hang on a wall, you can put on the refrigerator, you can have in their room, just somewhere that it's easily accessible for them so that they're able to come to you and let you know what it is that they're looking for. If you're going to use a PECS system, even if you're not using it fully, again, PECS can be used with learners who are verbal or nonverbal. We just pair that language with whatever picture it is that they're bringing to us, but it will increase the amount of communication that they're able to have if they do have limited vocabulary or if they do not have any vocabulary as of yet. So we want to make sure that these visuals are always accessible for them. If you have visual schedules that you're using in the house, again, you want to post those. You want to put them in places where they can see them. And you're going to go over these things daily. Each visual schedule, each different activity is going to have to be taught. So again, you can't just give them this visual and tell them, here you go, this is what you're going to do in the morning. When you first teach this, you're going to go through each step of this visual with them. You're going to take them to the bathroom. You're going to help them make their bed. You're going to take them to where they're having breakfast. Sit with them while they're brushing their teeth. If it's something that needs to be taught, you're going to be teaching the activity within the schedule. And so again, we want to make sure that before we kind of leave this as a tool for them to use, we want to be with them and doing it with them. And as they're going through, we want to check off that they're getting these different things done. So all of these different things, all these visuals that I've shown you today were all created here in my home. You can, again, use PowerPoint. You can use Microsoft Word, Teachers Pay Teachers. They have a lot of great resources that are free and resources that are a little bit cheaper. And again, you can make them yourself. All I've really used here today is PowerPoint, a printer, and a laminator. all of these different things, laminators, Velcro, all these things are reasonably priced on Amazon. So that's a great tool to use to get the things that you need to make these different visuals. If you are wanting to create a social story, again, you can use real life scenarios. You can use pictures of your child. You can use pictures of their favorite character, pictures of yourself, family, whatever it is that you're doing. If you're going to a restaurant, a specific restaurant maybe that they have problems with going to, or you're going to a specific outing that is not comfortable for them, you might want to actually put the picture of that place on there so that they are pairing this story with that picture. If it is just that going out in general is kind of an issue, then you can write a general social story about what is expected when we go out. When we're out in public, maybe safety. A lot of times we have kids who like to run in the street or don't really understand the dangers of these things. So you can make a general social story in that instance where you're talking about safety in a parking lot, that we need to look both ways, that we need to hold a hand. When cars are coming, we need to make sure that we're staying with mom and dad, that we're out of the way. If there's a sidewalk, we use the sidewalk. We wait before we walk into a street. So all of these visual things can be used anywhere. You can make them yourselves. You don't have to rely on someone else to do it. Even if it's on the fly and it's unexpected, as long as you have paper and pencil, anything to write with, you can always draw something out, write something up real quick. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Especially if you've already started training visuals. If you have started training visuals and they are familiar with any kind of thing, I've had to draw a weight thing, and let me tell you, I am not the best drawer. So I literally drew something like this, where I made my own hand and wrote weight. And that is what we had to use at that moment because I did not have my visual with me. So again, once it's been taught, it's easier to generalize and you can kind of make your own as you go along on the fly. I just want to make sure. So yes, so visuals are important for us to use to communicate with our learners and for our learners to be able to use to communicate with us. So again, anything that you want to give them to be able to communicate, great things are break cards, help cards, all done. These are all ways to help them to be able to appropriately protest things because a lot of times that is generally where we'll see more of the behaviors come out, is when they would like to be all done with an activity or they would like to just not ever start engaging in the activity. We'll see a lot of avoidance or escape. So by giving them these break cards, these all done cards, these give them ways to appropriately let you know that they are not interested in interacting with these things right now. And sometimes we will be able to honor these and sometimes we will not. So again, if you're going to be teaching these for the first time, you want to make sure that whatever it is, whatever the activity is that you're teaching this with, that it is something that they can end right at that moment, or else it will not teach them the true value of the card. Does anybody have any questions about anything concerning visuals, social stories, communication, any of these things at this time? Okay, so I will be doing another one of these on Friday. On Friday, we will be talking about diet expansion and how we can get maybe some of our pickier eaters to try new foods, to tolerate new foods even being around, what might cause children to be picky eaters or self-limit their diets. So I look forward to talking to you guys about that. Yes, so the recording will be shared to the Partners in Learning YouTube page, so you can access it there. And the certificates, I am working with Partners in Learning on getting those emailed to you, and they will be emailed directly to the address that was provided when you signed up for the training. I can give you the PowerPoint. I can send it to the email that you provided when you signed up. I will make myself a note of that now. So yes, and I will get you a copy of that PowerPoint. And if anybody needs any help with creating visuals, with creating social stories, if you have a very specific need, please let me know, because I am more than happy to help with creating anything that you may need, and with just teaching you how to make these visuals if needed. I thank you guys all for joining me. I look forward to talking with you guys on Friday. And again, please reach out if you need anything. I hope that I've answered all of your questions. Yes, so the training certificates will be emailed to the email address that you used when you signed up. I am currently working with Partners in Learning on making sure that we get those out. We are going to try to get all of the ones, if you attended Monday or today, we are going to try to make sure that you have all of those by Friday. So please, thank you for your patience as we're working through this. And I have really enjoyed talking to you guys today. I thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to talking with you all on Friday. Again, reach out if you need anything, and I hope you all have a great day. Thank you.